one.
Hey, it's Coach Lake here. Um, I'm at the beach while y'all are probably playing video games and whatnot. I'm diligently working on your next lesson. Okay, so this lesson is it's on maintaining mental health and emotional health. So, how are you going to maintain health, specifically your emotional health? So, the intro to emotional health. Emotionally healthy people learn to solve problems and adjust to their world. Emotional well being is an ongoing process rather than an unchanging state of mind. Everyone has occasional setbacks and problems. Abilities and behaviors that make people emotionally healthy can be learned. So, the big question is how can a person learn and change? That's what life is about, learning and changing. People learn most things through, guess what? Experience. They change their behavior when they discover a better way to act or behave or think. When you make a mistake, you may feel upset or embarrassed. Learning from the mistake helps you to avoid repeating it. By acting differently another time, you can figure out what works and make a change. So, another question, how can relationships be maintained? Emotionally healthy people usually can balance their own wishes with others. They learn to get along. When they have problems with others, they are able to work through them. They respond to the needs of friends or family members. Relationships change as you mature or grow older. Emotionally healthy people value these attachments to others, and at the same time, they remain independent. So people meet each other in many different ways. Emotionally healthy people are able to form bonds with others and still remain independent. Another question, how can goals be set and reached? It is important for emotional health to be able to set realistic or reasonable goals. Realistic goals are balanced between pessimism and unrealistic optimism. So, pessimism means tending to expect the worst possible outcome. Optimism, on the other hand, means tending to expect the best possible outcome. So, if you get too high or too optimistic, you may spend all of your time and effort trying to reach it. Okay, if you feel pessimistic, you may be so low, you may give up without even trying, which drives me nuts. So, how can problems be solved? When conflicts occur, it is important for emotional health to be able to find solutions to those conflicts or problems. It is important to be able to think about a problem and try to solve it. If the conflict is too difficult to solve, people make compromises. To compromise means that both people involved in the conflict agree to give in a little. Another emotionally healthy way to solve the problem is to suggest working together to solve a conflict. Working together, novel idea, right? Rational thinking is important in solving problems. Rational means being reasonable. So, how can emotions be managed? Remember that emotions signal a need. However, these signals are not always adjusted to the correct volume. All of us have certain impulses. Emotional health depends on learning to control impulses and express feelings appropriately. People often are able to predict the consequences or results of actions ahead of time. To do this, they consider what might happen if they react a certain way. They can change their actions to avoid a negative consequence. So, what are some healthy ways to think? So, another intro. Most actions and emotions begin with thoughts. Emotional healthy people think in ways that help them to cope or to be healthy. So, there are four helpful thinking styles, and those are realistic optimism, coping, healthy explanations, and meaningful values. So, number one, realistic optimism. When emotionally healthy people think with realistic optimism, they, number one, set and work towards goals that challenge them but are reachable. Two, they recognize what can and cannot be controlled in their lives. Three, they have faith in themselves and hope that events will work out for the best. So, under coping, people respond in two ways to stress. They either cope with it or they avoid it. Coping deals with and removes stress. In some situations, avoidance is the best way to cope. But this mainly relates to if it's a harmful situation when someone's being aggressive towards you. Other situations, Avoidance treats the symptoms of stress but does not deal with the real problem. So overall, you want to learn how to cope with issues, not avoid them. Okay, emotionally healthy people cope by doing the following: learning from experiences, mistakes, and success, knowing when to change behaviors that aren't working, using resources to help with difficult situations, trying again after a failure. Okay, healthy explanations. The third thing: emotionally healthy people use a positive thinking style to explain events. With effort, people can learn to replace negative or pessimistic thinking with realistic thinking. That's important to learn how to do. Okay, and then the last thing: meaningful values. Emotionally healthy people make sure their actions blend with the ideas and values they think are important. So, develop values that become part of them and guide their thinking and behavior. Don't be wishy-washy. If you don't have values, you don't have principles, that means you aren't. If you don't have anything to stand on, you don't stand for anything. Okay, you're wishy-washy. But anyway, reflect on their own feelings and thoughts instead of worrying about how others might judge them. Face and overcome disadvantages. Find meaning in their work or play. So, and then these are the questions I'm going to ask you in the Google form. So, check for understanding. True or false? Emotionally healthy people control everything in their world. True or false? Mentally healthy people learn from their experiences. True or false? Complete independence from others promotes personal well-being. True or false? Realistic goals are set between pessimism and unrealistic optimism. True or false? And emotionally healthy people learn to control their impulses. True or false? All right, that's Coach Lake. And that was our lesson on mental health, specifically how mental health relates to emotional health. Have a great week. Bye.